So Asylum just released their 13th album, Slowly But Surely, but does this legendary alternative rock band still have it after all these years? Let's dive in and find out. There's also an interesting story behind the album title, which I'll get to in a moment. If you didn't know, Soul Asylum was a band that was big for a while in the mid 90s during the alternative rock and grunge years. They had a few radio hits such as Runaway Train and Somebody to Shove. This is how I know the band, but they've also been making albums since the 80s and started out as a punk rock band. But then after the 90s, they went into more of a straightforward rock direction. But before we dive in, did you even know Soul Asylum was still releasing music? Have you been a fan since the beginning, or were you like me, you just know them from their 90s hits? So let me know in the comments. So fast forward to today. Their sound has changed, but the question remains, does their new material hold up? So let's explore that and take a closer look at this new album, Slowly But Surely.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
It's their 13th album released on the Blue Elan record label. The digital version was released on September 27, 2024, which was this weekend. And the physical copies are delayed a month later, so they will be released on October 26, 2024. Now, the lineup features the longtime frontman, Dave Pirner, and drummer Michael Blanche, who's been in the band for a long time. And they brought in some new fresh blood too, with Jeremy Tapero on bass and Ryan Smith on lead guitar. And this album was produced by Steve Jordan. He is known for working with bands such as the Rolling Stones and John Mayer. Now, you may be wondering, what is the meaning behind the title? The album title is a tribute to Shirley Chacha Muldowney, a pioneering female drag racer. So Dave Pirner, the band's lead vocalist and songwriter, was inspired by her courage and perseverance, especially her standing up against the male-dominated sport of drag racing. And this made a significant impression on Pirner during his youth. And also, she gave the band her blessing to use her name for the album title. As for the album, on the one hand, it has a lot going for it. There's a dynamic mix of genres, including punk-infused rockers, heartfelt ballads, funky grooves, and country blues elements, but it was also recorded live at the Terrarium in Minneapolis, so the production shows off the band's raw energy. There are also some guest musicians, such as Ivan Neville on keyboards, and the lyrics are also well written, and some songs feature some powerful storytelling, which I'll get to later. But on the other hand, it's not a perfect album. Some listeners might find the album's unpolished production less accessible compared to their earlier, more refined albums like Grave Dancers Union. Then there are songs that try to pull off a particular style but don't quite do it, and I'll explain more in the next section. Also, it's not a grunge album. Longtime fans might find the album sound a departure from the polished grunge-influenced work of the 90s, so some fans might go into it expecting a sound like Let Your Dim Light Shine, but then being disappointed by the sound. But the album has 11 tracks. There are some standout tracks like The Only Thing Missing, and that shows Soul Asylum's shift from grunge rock to roots rock. And then there's the single Freak Accident, which reminds me of Tom Petty. It has that kind of vibe going for it. However, they have some experimental songs like Trying Man, and those fall short because they don't really nail the funk rock sound that they were going for. So let's talk about some more songs. There are tracks like High Road, that's a fast-paced rocker with a little bit more of an alternative sound, maybe a little bit reminiscent of their earlier albums. I like the bass guitar playing and it stands out. You can hear it very well. It provides a solid rhythm section. But not everything is a rocker because there's also You Don't Know Me, a laid-back ballad. Vocals sounded very similar to what I remember of this band. And the melody sounded like I heard it before, but I couldn't really place it. But otherwise, it's a jangly type of song that has like a little bit of an atmosphere to it. There's an electric guitar solo in this one. It has a psychedelic tone. Sounded a little bit out of place, but it didn't really ruin the song. But the next few songs went into more of an experimental direction. For example, Freeloader was a power pop song that had a little bit of an alternative rock vibe, but also a little bit of that 2000s garage rock sound, so it was not too bad. If You Want Me Back was more of a 90s sounding rock song with a little bit of a punk rock type of energy. I like the guitar tone in this song, And Waiting on the Lord was a weird song. I kind of like it. It was a little different. On the one hand, it sounded like roots rock, but on the other hand, they had these like Hawaiian guitars and lyrics about an island with people living on it, with savages, and they tell a story which is kind of weird, but also kind of graphic, but not too bad. Now, despite the experimentation, some tracks harkened back to the 90s sound, such as Trial by Fire. I think out of all the songs on the album, this was the most 90s sounding. It was reminiscent of that Grave Dancers Union album, and another track that has some really nice bass guitar playing, and this track has lots of energy and is one of the better ones. There were a few songs that didn't really hit the mark, which were tracks number 10, Making Plans, which sounded like some of that adult contemporary music that was similar to the most recent Bon Jovi album that came out earlier this year. It's the kind of thing that you would hear on an AOR radio station. To me, it was kind of a filler track, but the guitar sounded pretty good. The lyrics were also kind of lazy. It's literally about somebody making plans to do something, and they kept repeating that line throughout the chorus. Then there was Sucker Maker, another song that was a little out of place, but they were going for that 70s type of funk sound, but I thought it was a little better than the previous funk song they were trying to do called Trying Man. And then there was the album Closer, High and Dry, another one of those country rock songs, reminded me a little bit of a Tom Petty type of song. Now on the plus side, I liked it had lyrics that were trying to tell a story. It's about a town that gets flooded and how everyone has to deal with it. So it told a story. So that was pretty good. Now for my final thoughts. I like the production. You can hear the instruments very well. The guitars have this jangly tone, and the bass guitar can be heard very well. The band tries to be experimental at times. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't. But in general, it's a typical alternative rock album. So my final score for Slowly But Surely is a 7 out of 10. It's got some solid tracks, but doesn't quite reach the heights of the other 90s bands' 2024 releases, like the one from Collective Soul or Pearl Jam that came out earlier this year. Let me know if you agree, or if you're just rediscovering Soul Asylum like I am right now. In the meantime, check out my review of Collective Soul's album from earlier this year, which was a really good one. Before you go, if you enjoyed this review, hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more rock and metal reviews, rankings, and deep dives. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Doctor, I've checked everyone. Mr. Stryker's the only one.